Black History Month. We're going to be joined by the Mayor of Milton Keynes, Councillor Andrew Geary, and we've got a wonderful, diverse range of speakers. But first of all, I'm going to say a little bit about MKIAC, and then Anwar will say some more. It was started by Anwar Kasim as a reaction to 9/11, and it aims to enrich lives through art and culture, and has been bringing people together now from diverse communities for over 10 years through a wide range of shared high quality arts events. And we believe that art can transcend religion, politics and race and empower individuals and can benefit the community as a whole. We usually hold events at and workshops, live events around Milton Keynes, and Art in the Park's been a very popular community festival. Last year was held at Willen Lake in glorious sunshine and attracted over 18,000 visitors, I think. I've been an ambassador for MKIAC since 2018, when Anwar invited me to run a series of community workshops to teach felt making and make a group piece of art.
Good evening, everyone. As Haley says, I'm from Northamptonshire. I'm in Wellingborough, and I am a creative writer, poet, performance poet, drama, theater lover, all of those things. I recently published a book called Tamarind Seeds, which is full of Caribbean poetry. My background is the Caribbean. I'm from the island of Montserrat, and a lot of my poetry is around that. But tonight, one of the first poem I'm going to share with you is about Black history, but with a slant. When I read it, you will see the slant, and I hope you will enjoy, because it reflects everything that's happening here tonight. Because my poem is called Celebrating the History of Her Story. Our story started many centuries ago with noble monarchs in the Kingdom of Africa. Makeda, Queen of Sheba, Queen Nefertiti of Egypt, and Queen Nandi of the Zulu nation, to name a few, made their indelible mark in world history. Their strength, resilience, and beauty, a lifelong legacy to be found throughout her story. When greed and misplaced racial superiority cruelly changed the course of history, enslaved women of color stood on the block, not as royal deities and superior humans as they were, but as chattels to be bought, sold, exploited, and raped. Their face, unparalleled pride and courage, a lifelong legacy to be found throughout her story. The yearning for freedom for their generations ignited and fueled a fire in enslaved heroines, Sojourner Truth, Elizabeth Freeman, and Harriet Tubman. They took on the relentless fight for abolition, blazing a trail for justice and equality above and underground, with the passion, devotion, and determination that is a lifelong legacy to be found throughout her story. The baton of freedom was passed on to a new generation of freed women, reclaiming their place of pride in history, storming new frontiers and seizing unexpected victories in politics, medicine, science, law, and education, pursuing goals with ruthless resolution, bequeathing a lifelong legacy to be found throughout her story. Women of color across the globe rewrote history as their stories were told. Coretta Scott King and Angela Davis were at the forefront, side by side with Martin and Malcolm, their voices just as bold. Mary McLeod Bethune, Shirley Chisholm, and Marian Wright Edelman, household names enshrined forever as part of our lifelong legacy to be found throughout our history. Rosa Parks sat down on a bus so women of color could stand in houses of Congress and in governments as ministers and prime ministers. Hattie McDaniel, Josephine Baker, Lena Horne took to the stage, and the world watched spellbound as mesmerizing melanin magic brought stories to life on the big screen, creating a lifelong legacy to be found throughout our Her Story. Caribbean women migrated across the Atlantic with the sole purpose of building a better life. Leaving behind young children, they made the sacrifice and answered the empire's call to a 6-week Windrush journey, bringing their skills, talents, ethics, and strength to rebuild mother's land, carving their rightful place in UK history, a lifelong legacy to be found throughout Her Story. Here on UK shores, the movement had might. Mary Prince and Phyllis Wheatley, slaves who dared to write, telling the stories of their journeys from bondage to freedom. Inspiring pioneers such as Mary Seacole, Lillian Bader, and Claudia Jones, who in turn opened doors for Diane Abbott and Baroness Scotland to walk boldly through. And now, a new generation is privileged to write their story, a lifelong legacy to continue throughout our history.
Thank you very much, Mel, for starting us off with something so inspiring. Sorry, do I see you with more as well?
I've got one Caribbean-based one, just to bring a little Caribbean flavor and to the evening. And this is from my book, Tamarind Seeds. And it's called Good Morning. It's just good morning. But look how you stare upon me like you think me is Tyler Perry, mad black woman that's crazy. Me give you me nicest Colgate smile. And you just stare upon me like fish where spoil. You need for understand that where me come from, everybody say good morning, cause that is we standard custom. And whether or not we know your name, we smiling and waving with you just the same. And now, me live in this cool, great country where most of the people no realize it don't cost nothing to be friendly. But all are you sour down face and you cut eye? Nah, stop me from say morning or even just hi. We hope one day you will come to understand and manage for reply. Even crack a smile and wave your hand when you realize that a warm greeting is all the mad black woman giving is just good morning.
Lovely.
Marvelous.
Full of energy, and what a lot of history you've packed in as well in a very memorable way.
Thank you.
Your first poem was, I mean, well, either of them. Which, what was it that sparked off writing those poems?
You know, it's history, and it was a play on the word his story, and I just thought a lot of what we hear is all about the men. It's all about the men, but where is her story? Yeah. So history has her story, and I just wanted to highlight all the women and to pass the baton on to so that the younger ones coming now know that write your story and tell your story.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mo. That's a great way to start. Okay, so I'll move on now, and our next speaker is Latifah. So welcome, Latifah. again, could you say a few things about yourself first and then give us your contribution?
Sure, I can. Thank you so much, Hilly. So, yeah, my name's Hanifa Mohammed. I'm Luton based now, although I lived in London for many, many years. But I've been in Luton now for 19, 20 years, so it's a long time in itself. I'm actually I'm an author, a couple of books, one of which is a poetry book. I am a soul-based coach, life coach, because I believe that I believe in working with people who want to address issues in their life from the inside out. So if we can connect with ourselves on the inside in a positive way, connect with our values and our beliefs from the inside, we can reflect those on the outside also, and people respond to us in a very different way, I believe. So I'm all about the soul, and I'm all about connecting with the soul. So I'm an author, I'm a soul-based coach. I'm also a social worker, and I specialize in mental health issues. And the thing that I really love, and the thing I feel really blessed to do, is poetry. Write poetry. I'm a performance poet also, and I've been blessed to come on here this evening. Thank you so much for inviting me, Anwar, and I look forward to a long association with everyone here. So that's a snippet about me. And I have two poems, but my first is, or should I say, my first is about Black History Month. And I've seen Black History Month come, and I've celebrated Black History Month over the years, but also over the years, I've come to a different understanding and a different energy about Black History Month. And my poem will reflect, I think, how I feel about Black History Month, although, of course, I credit and I respect those who went before. I believe Carter G. Woodson in America in 1926 is brought, if you like, is the forerunner of Black History Month. And so, of course, I respect and I honor the work of those who have gone before us, to have brought us to where we are now. But I think, like everything, all new things, we grow and we emerge and we evolve. And I'm at that stage, and I feel as a Black woman, I would like to see us emerge, if you like, onto a different level in terms of Black History Month. So I think my poem will say it all. So here we go. It's called More Than a Month. So here we are. It's October again. And guess what? It's Black History Month. It's when we're told it's okay to celebrate who we are and all we've done. Our incredible and undeniable history, our glorious and magnificent legacy, our beauty, strength, and resiliency, but only remembered once yearly. Why, I wonder, do we try to fit centuries of history into just 30 days? For me, that is a total mystery. It's like we are only prepared to pay lip service. It's like we're too scared to do more than skim the surface. So I have decided from here on, I am not playing that game. Just going along, grinning and accepting it. Nah, no way. I won't put the ancestors' name and sacrifice to shame, because I don't believe Black History Month should be happening today. It's no longer for me acceptable to designate 1 month to recognize and to celebrate our Black sheroes and heroes who went before, whose names and achievements will live on forevermore. Their stories should always be heard, not just once a year. They should be highly respected and revered. It's shameful that they're pigeonholed into just a few days, like this month's new fashion, new film, or some new craze. Now, our Black lives matter every single day. So I say, let's put our hearts and our minds together and let's find a way to go beyond this outdated label of Black History Month, so we always remember those who came before and those who are yet to come. More than a month. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanifa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I would like to just do another poem if I can.
Yes.
Which reflects for me the women who are here today, the fact that we are all women performers today. I believe it's only women that are performing. And so I'd like to say something about a woman's place. And I am not anti-man. I am pro-women. I am pro-everyone. I just happen to have written this poem about a woman's place. A woman's place. A woman has no defined place. Her energy always leaves a trace, a scent, a feeling, or some memory of who she's touched, saw, or where she's been. A woman's place is anywhere, everywhere. It's then or now, here or there. She's visible in the home, the media, and in the boardroom. She doesn't prejudge, she doesn't presume, and she doesn't assume. She's around by day and by night, a voice of reason in stormy times. She doesn't compete, but she stays in the race. She takes up space. That's a woman's place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That's absolutely great. I'd like to ask you a question later, but as Councillor Mayor Andrew Geary has arrived, I'd just like to say welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'll let you sit back and listen to what's going on and come to you at the end of that, if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine. It's good to be here. I'm sorry for my late arrival, technology problems and all that. I will have to go at about 2 minutes to 7. I've got a full council meeting this evening that I'm chairing. So
right.
Very happy to speak if you'd like to, but I will have to disappear about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. I should have officers bursting in here to brief me on what's going on.
Right. If I can grab your attention then at 10 to 7.
Absolutely. That'd be lovely.
I shall set myself an alarm. That's the only way I can do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Hanifa. You've raised a really interesting point that many people I've heard say, but your phrase, let's put our hearts and minds together and let's find a way, so that general awareness of rich history of all sorts of Black people is, it's not just pigeonholed. I think amazing phrase. I shall remember that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to move us on. I don't know how we're doing on time, but I'm sure Musab will send us a little message if we run away with ourselves. And let's go to Sheila.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So a bit about myself then. Well, so I'm Sheila. I live in Brighton. I've lived in Brighton since 1997. I was born in East London to St. Lucian parents, parents who came over from St. Lucia in the late 50s and early 60s. So of that generation, born in this country. Some of what I do, I write short stories, and I dabble in poetry, but I could never aspire to what I've heard so far, which has been absolutely inspiring and marvelous. And I think on the Black History Month topic, I don't feel I need to repeat what Latifah has said. I feel that she said it all. That is exactly how I feel about Black History Month. But I also appreciate this opportunity as well. So, and also Latifah's last 3 lines of the poem about the woman's place, I think that's going to stay in my heart forever. So it's really wonderful I've not met you before, but it's really wonderful to share a platform with you.
Likewise.
So this piece that I'm going to read from is published in a book called Hidden Sussex, which is published by a group called Writing Our Legacy. And Hidden Sussex is full of stories, poetry, photography and artwork of Black and minority ethnic people living in Sussex, talking about making us more visible in the countryside, because even though Brighton and Hove is supposed to be a city, it's still quite parochial in its opinions sometimes. So anyway, this is an extract from a piece called Good Girl. Okay. Good Girl. The train snakes slowly around the bend into Brighton station and comes to a shuddering halt at the platform. I should be on the train with Dad, not waiting on the concourse. When we were children, he would take us on day trips to here and there. It wasn't the destination that was important, it was the train ride. We liked to go to the end of the line. We'd traveled on British rail trains with tables. The large windows made it feel as though I was sitting in the landscape on a magic carpet, just like in my library book, Tales of the Arabian Nights. Dad works for British Rail. He's based at Temple Mills in Leighton, East London. I don't remember a time when he didn't work there, although I know there have been other jobs. When Mum and Dad muse about the old days, the first few years when they were in this country, in the 60s, they laugh about the disgusting jobs they had to do. Your father would come home covered in white dust from head to toe when he worked in Dick's Asbestos, all in his hair, everywhere, dragging it through the house. And when I worked in that cake factory, I'd be standing in 6 inches of water. Or was that the Tate and Lyle place? All the way from St. Lucia to the night shift in a factory. It was years before anybody knew how lethal that white dust could be. When I was a child, Dad's British Rail uniform looked very serious to me. Heavy duty dark navy material and a peaked cap with the silver British Rail insignia stuck in the middle like a brooch in the wrong place. My little brother and I were always playing with this cap. He could never find it when it was time for him to leave for work. I liked to wear his jacket. I enjoyed the weight of it, huge and heavy, with the scent of stale old Holborn rolling tobacco and his spicy bay rum cologne. It made Mom laugh, me clomping around the house in the jacket and his heavy duty steel-capped work boots. He's off the train and on the platform. Brighton is the end of the line. His steps are deliberate, hands deep in his pockets. He takes each step as though conducting an experiment to see if he still remembers how to walk. His feet turn outwards and he looks like a slowed down Charlie Chaplin. His trousers baggy at the ankles because he never tightens his belt to the correct notch. A slender, nutmeg brown man hair graying at his temples. He glares at the ground, talking to himself, stands still, collecting his thoughts, his face tilted up to the curved girders of the station roof, as though those thoughts are floating around up there. There are a few starlings swirling in the rafters, gibbering and jabbering their usual nonsense. He rubs his chin, the other hand on his hip. As usual, a grimy off-white handkerchief fell to the ground when he pulled his hand from his pocket. He bends from the waist, stoops to pick it up, causing congestion and confusion around him. At the ticket barrier, with no hesitation, he looks straight at me. "Good girl," he says, and smiles with his perfect white false teeth. They disgusted me when I was little. He'd leave them in a glass in the bathroom overnight, soaking in a sterilized glass of water, like a horrible experiment in a laboratory, teeth that grew on their own in a test tube. I complained to Mum, "Why does Daddy have to take his teeth out? Why can't he leave them in like everybody else? He looks funny when they're not in." She told me that one day he went to the dentist with a toothache and came home with no teeth. His gums bled for hours. The bucket of water they used to soak the cloth he was using to staunch the flow turned deep ruby red, and the water looked like a bucket of blood, she said. I'd invited them both to visit, but as usual, Mum was wary. "Brighton? That's not in London, is it?" "No, Mum, it's about 60 miles away." 60? Oh, that's far. I find it difficult to believe that she left the Caribbean and traveled to England with 3 children, my older sister and 2 of her sister's children, 2 weeks on a boat. Where did she think she was going? Not far. Before we leave the train station, Dad turns and points at the few small birds circling the vaulted glass and iron roof. "They're not seagulls," he says. "No, they're starlings, Dad." I'm going to take him home on the bus and show him the sights along the way, where I do my shopping, where I work, the Palace Pier, the Pavilion Palace. I'm going to take him to my home and make him a strong cup of PG tips with lots of sugar and a bacon sandwich, special purchases bought just for him. I'm going to show him around my little house, then take him onto the Brighton Pier. About an hour before sunset, I start bustling him out of the house. We're going for a walk on the pier to watch the sunset, I tell him. Not into the jangling, discordant sounds of the arcade with slot machines and crashing coins, but to promenade in the fresh sea air on the side that faces the setting sun, looking towards the ravaged but beautiful outline of the burnt-out West Pier. I'm hoping to introduce him to the greatest show on earth, hosted and performed by my soulmates, the Starlings. So that's it.
Thank you.
So much, Sheila. What a very vivid and heartfelt personal story.
Yeah, it's only a third of the story.
Yeah,
but it's the beginning.
It's really vivid, you know, like radio. It had the best pictures.
Thank you. Yeah, because my father, so my father, he came from St. Lucia as a young man, and you know, worked in factories, and you know, as I mentioned, the white dust, it killed him in the end. So you know, that lethal white substance is and he never actually got to visit me in Brighton. It's made up. It's a story.
Oh, it was your dream.
Yeah.
Even more touching. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can we now move on to Andra? Are you there, Andra?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'm apologetic that no one can see me. I've tried absolutely everything, but I shall have to remain mysterious for this evening's meeting, but lovely to hear and meet you all. I've chosen to read some poetry from Langston Hughes, the African-American poet and activist who died in 1967, but I think his poetry still resonates very much for me, and hopefully it will for you too. The first one I've chosen is called As I Grew Older. It was a long time ago. I have almost forgotten my dream, but it was there then, in front of me, bright like a sun, my dream. And then the wall rose slowly, slowly, between me and my dream, rose slowly, slowly, dimming, hiding the light of my dream, rose until it touched the sky, the wall, shadow. I am black. I lie down in the shadow, no longer the light of my dream before me, above me, only the thick wall, only the shadow. My hands, my dark hands, break through the wall, find my dream. Help me shatter this darkness, to smash this night. Break this shadow into 1,000 lights of sun, into 1,000 whirling dreams of sun. I think this poem is quite poignant for me because it speaks to the realization of race, of identity, being engulfed by the restrictions, the perceived restrictions, but having a dream of freedom, of liberty, of the right to live, to exist, to thrive, and literally punching through the wall to grab and to embrace that basic human right. The second Langston Hughes poem I'd like to read is called One Way Ticket. Again, I think for me it resonates in so much as none of us can be unaware of the pressing and somewhat urgent American presidential elections, what it means for Americans generally, specifically, given that it's Black History Month, what it means for African Americans. And now that it's come to light that there was not only the usual gerrymandering in the 2016 presidential elections, but a concerted effort to dissuade African Americans to vote, I think the history that African Americans continually fight against is in jeopardy. So this poem is called One Way Ticket. I pick up my life and I take it with me, and I put it down in Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, Scranton, any place that is north and east and not Dixie. I pick up my life and take it on the train to Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Seattle, Oakland, Salt Lake, any place that is north and west and not south. I am fed up with Jim Crow laws, people who are cruel and afraid, who lynch and run, who are scared of me and me of them. I pick up my life and take it away on a one-way ticket, gone up north, gone out west, gone. That's it.
Wow, thank you, Andra. What a very powerful phrase. I'd pick up my life. Cool. That says a lot, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Councillor Geary to say a few words for you. I'm so sorry we weren't able to introduce you at the beginning and also tell you something about MKIAC. But as you know, today is about Black History Month, and we happen to be a group with 9 women performers. And it's, you know, MKIAC is about diversity and inclusion and arts and culture. So, you know, just wondered what your thoughts were on that so far.
I'm really sorry I wasn't here at the start and for the confusion that's caused. But from what I've heard so far, it's been great to be with you this evening, and I'm really proud to be the mayor of a city that takes inclusion and diversity and all different cultures so seriously, and indeed embraces them and welcomes them. I'm grateful for the invitation to join you this evening through my good, can I call you old friend Anwar? That's not too insulting, is it? We've been that doesn't mean that Anwar's old. It just means that we've been friends for a long time since I held the other esteemed position that I've been fortunate to do on this council as leader of the council, which started about 10 years ago. And I think, Anwar, that's when we first met. It's been that long, but it's great to be here in a much more civic and ceremonial role this evening, and to learn a little bit more about it, as well as listening to some of the fascinating readings that I've heard in the time that I have been on since about 6:15. It's wonderful, and I have to say will be probably some of the most inspiring stuff I hear tonight, and don't take anything about comments in full council that's going to follow negatively on when I say that. You thought it was going to be 9 women that were reading to you tonight, but given that Anwar gave me a very good brief as to what this evening was about, and about poetry celebrating Black History Month, I actually thought, well, I'll do a little bit of homework and I'll try and find something equally appropriate for me to read that speaks to me, but that comes from something to do with Black history. And given Andras, I think it was Andra who spoke last, and her reference to the American presidential election that's going to be happening, I believe, is 2 weeks' time, isn't it? I think it's that close. Yeah. And without getting embroiled in the politics of it, some of you, you've probably all heard the poem called Praise Song for the Day by Elizabeth Alexander, that was written for Barack Obama's inauguration as American president. And when I was looking and doing some homework, this was the one that spoke to me, not least because it talks quite a lot about what you've already said and introduced, but also it has the mention of children going to school in it. And I've got 2, well, only one that does now, one's at college, but it also talks about farming in there, which is what I do for a day job. I don't know whether you can see the tie, but it's covered in farm animals. So if you'll allow me, let me read this to you as my contribution to your event this evening, and indeed my contribution celebrating Black History Month. Though I have to say, I do agree with Latifah that actually Black History Month should be confined to history, and that actually we ought to celebrate that culturally every single day of the year. Each day we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a hem, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tyre, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere, with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with a cello, boombox, harmonica, voice. A woman and her son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, take out your pencils, begin. We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or proclaimed, words to consider, to reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of someone, and then others who said, I need to see what's on the other side. I know that there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, who raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick, glittering edifices that they would keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign, the figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbour as thyself. Others by thirst do no harm, or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national. Love that casts a widening pool of light. Love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp. Praise song for walking forward in that light. Now that was clearly written at the start of Barack Obama's time as president. And it looked back on the past, but it also looked forward to the future. And a future that, even with my slight political differences with Barack Obama, actually was a presidency that is to be marked and one of the greatest in American history. I do hope that as you celebrate Black History Month, and that as you celebrate all that's gone on in the past, and you celebrate the cultures which you hold respectively, I also hope that we stand on the cusp of something different, something better, and that actually the Black Lives Matter movement that we've seen, but other movements as well, will change things for the good, so that Hanifah's wish that actually Black history is just included as part of everyday society, and that we can all live together as one people, actually is a time that is coming, and is coming soon. Because at the end of the day, colour is nothing but skin deep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That was a bonus session. I mean, you chose a very, very moving poem, and you were talking about the future. How would you like to see MKIAC contributing further to the wider community as an inclusive arts and culture organisation in Milton Keynes during the time of your tenure and on into this end of this decade and the next decade?
Goodness me, you've caught me on the hop there.
It's a big one, that.
Yeah, no, it is. But I would actually, what I'd really welcome is a further discussion around that, both in terms of it's all very well what I think, but actually how you want to do things and how I can help facilitate that is probably a bigger question. So I'm not just going to turn it straight back on its head and aim it back at you. That'd be cowardice. But actually to say yes, what I want to do, and you know, there will all mayors will be judged by how they perform in their term as mayor. But if I can do something that kind of enhances and enables the what are the words I'm trying to find, the culture and the history that you share, and that we all share, to be moved forward, to be celebrated, and actually to be made more public and visible, then I'm really happy to do that, and you know, would really welcome a further conversation about that with yourself, Anwar, anybody else who wants to be involved. It'll probably have to be by Zoom. I think the likelihood of us meeting anytime soon in person is quite remote. But actually, Zoom does have its advantages. We've heard Sheila, who's down in Brighton and has always lived in Brighton, with us this evening. So it does enable us to include a wider audience. But if that's something you'd like to do, something I'm really happy to kind of engage in and take forward. Yeah,
that's great. I'm sure Anwar will take you up on that. And thank you once again for coming. I'll say a sort of formal goodbye now, because somebody might be in mid-flow as you go. But thank you so much.
Absolutely. I will stay with you until the first officer that's briefing me walks into the room.
Yeah.
I shall wave and bid you good night, even if someone is in full flow.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. And I think if there were a prize for the best necklace, you'd get it.
Thank you very much. It is partly for your benefit. It's also partly for the next one as well. But yeah, lovely to be with you this evening. And thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now, in terms of our programme, was there anybody else who needed to be away by 7 who hasn't already spoken? No? Right, okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Andra. So we're going to move on to another MKI. Tina.
Yes, hello. I'm Tina Latifah Jones, and I've known Anwar for some time now. I'm a social worker, but I also run the HIV charity here in Milton Keynes, and I am currently the chairperson or the chair lady for the Association of Ghanaians in Milton Keynes. And I have to say, Ghanaians form quite a huge number of Africans here, and the charity has been around since 1997. And this year we were hoping to actually plan and introduce a trip to Ghana, because some of you may know about Black history. Ghana is one of the countries that has and still have some of the castles for the transatlantic slave. So the Americans, I would say, have taken over, and they do this tour every year. And we are hoping that we can introduce this in England, so that we can actually do this trip, or pilgrimage as some people say it, so that we can go back home to understand how some of these things happened. And today when Anwar said we need to do a reading of a poem, I started thinking, it's not really, I'm out of my comfort zone today in terms of poetry and things like that, but I thought I'd do my best and have a look around. And this particular poem and this particular poet really kind of brings everything together for me in relation to what Hanifa has said in terms of why do we have to have a month to talk about Black history? Black history should be incorporated in the British history period. And this poet is a very popular poet called Maya Angelou. I'm sure most of you will know about Maya Angelou. And this particular poem is entitled The Black Family Pledge. And given the current issues, even prior to Black Lives Matter becoming very popular in England, we know about Black on Black crime, we know about the knife crime, the county lines and all of these things. So I felt like as family, we are all family here tonight, people watching us on Facebook, you know, in different communities. I'm hoping that this poem will actually remind us of who we are and to come together and support our young people especially. So here we go with Maya Angelou's poem about the Black Family Pledge. Because we have forgotten our ancestors, our children no longer give us honor. Because we have lost the path our ancestors cleared, kneeling in perilous undergrowth, our children cannot find their way. Because we have banished the God of our ancestors, our children cannot pray. Because the long wails of our ancestors have faded beyond our hearing, our children cannot hear us crying. Because we have abandoned our wisdom of mothering and fathering, our befuddled children give birth to children they neither want nor understand. Because we have forgotten how to love, the adversary is within our gates and holds us up to the mirror of the world shouting, regard the loveless. Therefore, we pledge to bind ourselves again to one another, to embrace our lowliest, to keep company with our loneliest, to educate our illiterate, to feed our starving, to clothe our ragged, to do all good things, knowing that we are more than keepers of our brothers and sisters. We are our brothers and sisters, in honor of those who toiled and implored God with golden tongues, and in gratitude to the same God who brought us out of hopeless dissolution, we make this pledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. You've really put on our agenda the danger of losing touch with your culture. Yes. Or some of the dangers that come with it whilst integrating into a new one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Can we move on to Labs?
Yes.
With a wonderful microphone that we're jealous of.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be involved in this event tonight, and yeah, I've just resonated with a lot of the pieces that have been read out today, and yeah, I'll just get on with mine. I am a musician, I am a hip hop artist, so I'm going to be doing an a cappella version of one of my songs called The Seeds of Wisdom. And it basically speaks about reaping what you sow and the importance of the seeds that you're kind of planting, because there's always a harvest and there's always more of it. And I guess in relation to Black history and just my own journey, like as a Black woman, the information I received, so just questioning stories I kind of tell myself and the information that I'm receiving, is that a truth? Where is the full truth? And especially in Black history, in school, we're not really taught that much about it. So it is important that you do that connection and connect the dots, understand where you have come from, who have come before you, who have paved the way is really important. So yeah, here is The Seeds of Wisdom. My people die from a lack of knowledge. Think they've got it, they don't know me, bunch of pseudo prophets. More concerned about profits and filling up their pockets. It grieves me that the minds of the folly are deceived easily. Have you got no vision, claiming you walk by sight? Angels of darkness will masquerade as light. You can't be woke and blind, both dead and alive. The division is evident, many souls are left desolate. Tune into wisdom, set the frequency to understanding. Strive for it and the ways will become clear. To anybody with ears, let them hear. A word of life cuts deeper than a sharp spear. If you don't know, now you know. When the seed hits the soil, it will grow, grow, grow. If you don't know, now you know. When the seed hits the soil, it will grow. We have weapons of mass production or destruction in the tongue. If your house was built on words, would you stay or would you run? Your ignorance will prison you, all in the name of fun. Your life is a reflection of who's triggering your gun. You are what you eat, and it shows when you speak. If your heart's full of love, then you'll never compete. It's completeness, overflows, and it's no secret. A lack of it throws you into the ether. So know yourself, know your wealth, step into your greatness, because your favored need the flavor of the soup spilled. They want to know how I go in, is because I've been filled, been still, receptive to the truth, I move trill. I don't settle for less, now I know more. Highly favored and blessed, that I know for sure. The future's bright, to every day I grow and mature, to adventure to the life that I'm yet to explore. If you don't know, now you know. When the seed hits the soil, it will grow, grow, grow. If you don't know, now you know. When the seed hits the soil, it will grow. That was Seeds of Wisdom by myself, Labs.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Labs, how did you get into hip hop?
Well, it started from high school when I entered a talent show with one of my friends, wrote a remix to this song and literally entered it with her and said, look, let's perform. And that was the first time that I ever performed on stage. And I guess really connected with the audience and just experiencing a moment of togetherness and sharing a bit of my story. And from then, just writing more original music, you know, going on radio, shooting videos, and just developing my storytelling and pushing an uplifting message. I think that is my whole purpose when it comes to music, just empowering other people, empowering myself as well during the process. And yeah, just sending out a positive message in a way that resonates with my generation and other generations as well.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, it's the first time I've really listened to hip hop, and I'm just amazed at your ability to get all those words in. I think it's fantastic. How did this contribution come about? You know, how did it come to you?
So, say that again. Sorry, I missed your last bit.
Did this particular contribution come about? So, how did you get the inspiration?
Yeah, sure. I think just through experience, I feel like, especially in my own journey, just identity is a big kind of part of this whole journey of Black history, understanding who you are, where you've come from. And I think in regards to that song, I think definitely in my journey, I have, I guess, accepted incorrect information of just thinking, oh, you're less than because you look like this, or you come from a certain place. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case. You're not who you are in your worst moment, and it's important to know who you are so you are grounded, and no matter what happens in life, you are rooted and anchored by your belief system, by just the right and correct truth about yourself, I think.
Yeah, Bob Marley spoke or sang very movingly about knowing your history.
Definitely, it's key.
That's great. Thank you very much, loves.
Thank you.
Shall we move on now to Muneera?
Hi, I'm here.
All the way from London.
I'm in Bristol, actually.
Bristol. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you so much for inviting me and being patient with me in terms of time. I had to just do something else beforehand, but it's an honor to be here. And what I like your necklace more than I like the mayor's.
Oh my God.
Just have to say that. But I'm gonna do a piece. I've been thinking a lot about the physical body, right? And about my body, and also just being a person, being a human. You know, oftentimes we are seeking something that is outside of ourselves, whether that be a form of knowledge that is outside of ourselves, that identity that's outside of ourselves. But like actually being human is about being in our body. And when I think about poetry, when I think about the power and the ability of poetry, I think about it as a embodied form of an embodied form of art. I think about it as a methodology for being able to name something, which allows us to understand it and to have conversations about it. So I am doing a lot of work at the moment that is thinking about the physicality of my being and how that connects with my spiritual, my social, and my everything else. So this poem is called Dear Body. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear body, thick body, brown body, round, curved and clutch body, soft body, my body, soaked in lavender with a fragrance somewhere between mangoes and vanilla body. Dear you, body, stout like your grandma, curved like your mama, thick-skinned and subtle heart, blemished skin and breaking heart. I'm sorry for all of the times that I've neglected you. Failed to shower you with gratitude for carrying me through all that you have. You are more than vessel, more like vital. Without you, there is no world void and without form. Has no thought, no feeling, no function, no witnessing God wanting to be known. No stumbling over subhanallah when hearing it for the very first time. No bended knees, no fajr tears, no closed eyes when kissed on the neck, nor faint breath when kissed on my back. Dear body, my carry me through hurt body, my compartmentalize until I could deal with body, heal with body. I have neglected you. Bitched at you, bullied you for being so fat, so dark, so light, so hair not long enough, hair too thick under my chin, breasts too big, butt too small, feet too flat, shoulders too broad. How have you coped, body? Not broke down, body, even when you were pinned down and screamed out, and once again you were pinned down, but learned not to scream because last time there was nobody, just you and somebody who wished to colonize your body like a country rich in resources, mother tongue gone, and all that remains is corrupted languages that have taught us not to love our bodies. So it's no wonder I've neglected you, at one point even loathed you, but now I need you to know. I need you to know that you are heavenly, the type of body that continents could be named after. Muneera, land of silk tongues and wild ravines, like stretch marks carved in tummies and thighs, land bountiful and overflowing, house of hope, home of hearts. You are loved. You are loved, dear body, thick body, brown body, round, curved and clutch body, soft body. Thank you for carrying me through. That's me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What kind of reactions have you had from different groups to your poem?
It's so interesting. Like I experimented with delivering this poem in different spaces because I think it's more than women who needs to hear this poem. It's more than, Black people who need to hear this poem. The relationship between women and their bodies, particularly Black women and their bodies, and particularly minority, or I say minority, but minoritized communities and their bodies, and this sort of like relationship between land and the body, this relationship between the way how we are forced to think about ourselves in very limited lenses and the body, right? And how we see ourselves and how the world treats us is important to talk about this. So in different circles, I get different reactions, and like in spaces when it's normally not like Black Muslim women, like people often just ask questions like, wow, what relationship did you have with your body? Why is this? And they look at things like, for example, I mentioned about colonized countries and our mother tongues, and like the language that we speak has been colonized in a way that we don't see our bodies. We don't think of Black as beautiful, or me, I'm a woman of size, don't think of big as beautiful. So different responses, but always really interesting to hear back.
And you actually also included Black history in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Our body, the way how I see Black history is that like Black history is something that happened in the past, but it's something that is continually happening in the future. And we are the connection between the past, the present, and the future. We are like that portal. We can't disconnect ourselves, because everything that is in the past is sorry to go on the run, but everything that's in the past is affecting the now. Like even when we think about, people talk about slavery, for example, being in the past, and I don't want to how this is the only narrative, but we know that we was paying taxes towards the families of so is that really in the past, or is that now? And actually, how does that shape now? And how do we shatter these narratives? And as poets, as people of words, of rappers, of MCs, of talkers, speakers, the tongue, this is a methodology in which we call things out. And we're in a new age now where it's not just about being brave, but it's about being radical. And yeah, I just think the word has something really important to contribute. So thank you, Anwar, for putting this together.
No, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Muneera.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Sagal, and I'm a London-based spoken word poet. And I'm also a recent English graduate, and I write usually about social issues like youth knife crime and immigration and gender equality. And yeah, today I'm going to be performing 2 poems. The first one is called Colorblind, and I wrote it about 3 years ago. I think I was inspired by the movie Straight Outta Compton, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, so it's called Colorblind. And what about those who died in hate, pinned to the ground by a badge and a race a colour means, guns, drugs and jail a colour means, gangs, fear and rapes a colour means? You can't speak certain words or hurl certain terms that only white people say. A colour means you can't sit at the front of a bus. You don't know how to father and love, let alone true laughter and trust. Don't shed tears of fear. You won't look tough enough. Growing up, you wanted to slither out of your skin, and Iago within yourself, you snaked it. Wanted to change quick, you wet your hair to make it straight instead of thick, for beauty to you was thin. Both hair and waist, you made yourself white enough to tame, white enough for shame, white enough for beauty. Doesn't exist in this race, yet they steal our ways. Wear our braids some days, plaster our lips onto their face, stitch our thick into their waist, wear appropriation beside their hate. They give us a month to speak of our love, of our home, of our hearts, but we won't ever stop speaking. Let home forever rest on our tongues. Let home lounge in our lungs. Let home dance in our hums. Our history, we tell them, exceeds a month. Thank you. So that was my first poem. My second one, I wrote a couple of weeks ago during the lockdown, and it was inspired by George Floyd's death, and I titled it Last Moments. And in those last moments, I hope that he knew that his tears would fall on our eyes too. When your skin weighs heavy like a death sentence, and your garments morph into a shroud when passed away becomes too soft of a phrase to describe how loud knee dug into neck bones, cracked to the left, blood fled out of flesh, life crushed into death. On the days where your skin feels like excess baggage fees, like an unfinished fight, like a walking corpse, on those days, I want you to know that all they see is the darkness in your light, and shame on them for missing out on the celestial beauty of the night. You shooting star, you supernova, your death only brings us more life. So we take your gravestones out of the graveyards and place it on our placards, place it in our tongues, in our breaths, in our strides. And in those last moments, I hope that they knew that although their lives may be stripped from them, we won't let their names be hijacked too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagal. That expression, your skin is a death sentence. What?
I really enjoyed listening to everyone's poems. It's been so inspirational, mashallah. Is it that we're all women? I didn't hear any male voices, or did I miss something?
You missed the mayor who
apart from the mayor.
Bones poem, yeah.
I heard the mayor's poem, but apart from the mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, great. So because of time, I'm just going to go straight in. The poem that I'm going to read is called Oceans and Ancestors, which was inspired by a trip that some of my friends made to a port in West Africa where they kept kidnapped Africans before they were taken to the Caribbean and to America. So it's called Oceans and Ancestors. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My ancestors lie in graves made of water. My ancestors lie in graves made of water. No funeral prayers were said. No holy man prayed for the dead. No flowers were cast upon coffins. No families mourned at the graveside holding each other tight. No condolences, no words, just water. My ancestors lie in graves made of water. Has anyone said a prayer for the unnamed yet? Prayed over their mass grave yet? Released their spirits from the ocean bed so they could fly towards the stars, instead of witnessing the heavens glow from beneath the water? The galaxies dance mockingly to those locked to the bottom of the sea. Or maybe they're at home there, after centuries of existing in liquid, their flesh living forever on the sea floor, their breath in the crashing waves that rush upon the seashore so urgently, like messengers from beyond the grave with the secret to share with the living. Ancestors of mine, what would you like to say, because I'm listening with my everything? I wonder how it feels to die that way. No ashes to ashes, no dust to dust. Imagine the Atlantic is a cemetery for ancient African blood that seeped into the sea so elegantly, as it left the bodies of warriors who refused to be slaves and surrendered to those with the devil in their eyes, wielding whips that lashed their black gold skin, punished for no actual sin. Imagine my ancestors lie in graves made of water. I wonder if they tried to swim when their bodies cracked against the ocean's limb, or if they surrendered to the majesty of the water. Maybe they saw their home in the distance, their village, their tribe, their mother's lagoon-like eyes saying everything will be fine. Maybe they reached out their hands to touch all of the above, the type of mirages that appear when you are drowning. Maybe they saw their great-grandparents in the distance walking on water, with outstretched arms taking them home to an Africa in the spirit realm, with drums that play themselves and children that dance but their feet don't touch the ground, under a baobab tree that glistens with lights from heaven. I wonder if they knew they would die when they jumped, or if they thought the sea was a portal to the sky. Maybe they saw something our eyes couldn't. Maybe they heard a melody that other wounded comrades didn't. Maybe they were not jumping. Maybe they were flying because they saw the face of God in the water. Thank you. I'm just going to go straight into my second poem, again, because of time. This poem is called Tribe, and it's really about what it means to be a Black woman, a Black Muslim woman, from the African diaspora. And it's just a portrait of what that means to me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My people are ancient future, inhabiting a realm between hip-hop and scripture. We are the new Black Mohammedans, concrete dwellers, exiled Africans, strangers in an even stranger land, but we have found home here. Foreign hands fed us fables so we would forget ourselves. They put the pill in our mouths, but we did not swallow. We have the blood of the oppressors inside us, so we are immune to their virus. But heaven has always been inside us, and God always stood beside us. We are those whose language is lost, but we understand the language of God inherently. Our words are part prophecy and part poetry. We are the dreams our ancestors did not know they could dream. We are there tomorrow. Ancient tribes underneath the city skyline, looking for home in all the wrong places. We are the lost tribes, Abrahamic, making homelands everywhere, nomadic, modern day mystics, societal misfits, find us in tower blocks like the Oracle in the Matrix, extraordinary human beings in ordinary places. We know we are broken and flawed, but it doesn't stop us clawing our way to God's doors. We sit with the lovers, those who weep when they hear God's names. We place our foreheads on the ground, face the east when we pray. We say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And what of our women? The women of my tribe have light in their face and tears in their eyes. Some of us have tattoos that tell stories of past lives. We live in concrete castles and make homes in the hearts of broken men, believing we can heal them back to wholeness. And sometimes we can, but most times we cannot. Our women have walked through the valley of the shadow of death, confronted the darkness and speak to God with every breath. We give birth to brown babies, knowing their paths will be decorated with broken glass, knowing that no matter how much love we rub into their skin, society will try and break them into pieces, suck their vibrance and greet them with violence that only a mother's love can fix. We are both healers and dreamers, traveling to worlds behind our eyelids. We are those women who wash our hearts in God's ocean and keep rowing. What my tribe has endured, many nations would have been unable to survive, but we are alive, and so we rise with the Most High in our eyes and fire on our tongues. Our black is so beautiful, it could blind you. Watch the story unfold of those who were bought and sold. Let our glory be told. Black gold. Thank you.
Thank you. It was absolutely wonderful. The whole evening has been so moving, and yeah, what an amazing talent, what a huge collection of talent we've been privileged to hear today. We are incredibly rushed for time, so I'm going to have to start drawing things to a close, but I'd like to, I know Anwar, I think, has had to leave. I'd like to say, offer thanks to him for when he sees this, and also to Musab for all his support and sharing his technical skills. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to say, Musab.
No, I just want to thank all the performers. It's been a real privilege taking part in this. So thank you all.
Yeah, there's such a lot to think about, and I would love to read all these things over again or listen to them